Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. That's a walloping statement to put in there at the end of those 3 sentences. I mean, the therefore comes as somewhat of a surprise, but there's an injunction there. Well, it's a good injunction, man. I'll tell you, people who don't do that, they have a hell of a time in their marriage. And so this is a good thing to know. If you are married, or if you're planning to get married, is like, you know, we have very strong orientation towards our parents, and for good reason. It's like the injunction here is, that's secondary as soon as you're married. And failure to do that makes your marriage collapse. And then you deserve it to collapse too, as far as I'm concerned, because it's a reflection of your pathological immaturity and your unwillingness to extract yourself from the, you know, Talon-like grip of parents who are a little bit too much on the interfering side. But the injunction, there's a deep injunction here. It's very complicated. So one of the ideas is that the original Adam wasn't a man, like a separate man. It was more like a hermaphroditic being. And in that hermaphroditic being, there was a kind of undifferentiated perfection. And then that was split into male and female. And then that part of the goal of human beings is to reunite that as the singular unity that reestablishes the initial perfection. And that's actually the goal of marriage from a spiritual perspective. And you could read about that if you read Jung, because he wrote quite a bit about that. It's lovely. It's such a good idea. So I had these friends that went to Sweden to get married. They were from northern Alberta, but his heritage, both their heritages were Swedish. And in this ceremony, they did this cool thing as they were being married, and they had to hold a candle up between them, right, while they were being married. And you think, well, okay, what's the candle? Well, it's a source of light. It's a source of illumination, right? It's a source of enlightenment. It's the candle that you put on Christmas trees in Europe. So it's the light that emerges in the darkness in the depth of winter. It's a symbol of life in darkness. It's the reemergence of the sun at the darkest, coldest time of the year, which is also associated symbolically with the birth of Christ for all sorts of complicated reasons. And so the candle's all that. And then the next question is, why do you hold it above you? And the answer is because what's above you is what you're below to. So it simplifies something transcendent. And so why do you both hold on to it? Well, because you're both supposed to hold on to the light, right? And you're supposed to be subordinate to the light. And so you ask, well, who's in charge in a marriage? Well, the light. That's the idea. So you come together as one thing. You're no longer two things. It isn't what's good for you, and it's not what's good for your wife. It's what's good for the marriage. And the marriage is about the combined being, which is the reassembly of the original hermaphroditic being at the beginning of time. That's the idea. And that's all packed into like these 4 sentences. And you know, there's been, well, all of these sentences have tremendous history of interpretation associated with them, right? It's just endless and endless and endless, and that's one of the lines. And so it's also an antidote to the idea that women taken out of men, which is obviously the reverse of the biological process, by the way, makes women in some sense subordinate to men. That is not built into this text. I don't see that at all as built into the text.